Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
I was born into a poor neighborhood. My mom and dad were still teenagers when my mom gave birth to me. They couldn't take care of themselves, let alone me. Life was hard because they now had a kid. One would expect that they would be more responsible. That was not the case. When I was younger, I thought that that was how life was supposed to be. My parents were always either drunk or high on drugs. I got my first job when I was 12 at a local shop near my house. The lady, I would call her Mrs. Thompson, helped me see that there was a better life than the one I was living. I began to crave it so bad. She would tell me stories of places she had visited and encouraged me to dream big. She told me that I could become anything I wanted to be if I trusted myself enough and believed it. It gave me hope that one day I could have all I ever dreamed of and not end up like my parents. I remember thinking that it was good that my mom didn't give birth to more kids because I didn't want to have any siblings have the same experience. It was like I shot myself in the foot because my mom got pregnant shortly after. It made me anxious because I could not believe that I had another sibling on the way, but my parents were still irresponsible. I made up my mind to work harder and ensure that I could take care of her if my parents didn't. My suspicions were correct, but I was there to stand in the gap, so I took care of her. At this time, I was 16 and had two jobs, one during the weekends and the other on weekdays. It was usual for my parents to try to take my salary from me. In fact, they did that more often than not. It annoyed me because my sister was growing and I couldn't afford to work my ass off and give them all the money to squander. I started to hide my money from them or say that I didn't get paid. After a while, they figured that I was lying because my mom went to confront one of the people I worked for, asking why I wasn't getting paid. Of course, my employer was confused and told him the truth. My dad asked me to give him the money. He said that he would use it to pay some of our bills and return it to me later. That was a lie because he never returned my money. I refused to give it to him and told him and my mom never to ask me for my money again. Dad got angry with me and threw me out of the house. I had some friends who allowed me to stay with them until I completed high school. My goal from the beginning was to get a full scholarship because I knew that I wouldn't be able to afford my tuition even with my savings. I got into university and I left that horrible place. My only regret was leaving my sister behind. It haunted me at night and it was my fuel to keep going until I succeeded. Even if getting my sister was the last thing I did, I would make sure that she got the best life that I could give her. To cut a long story short, I made good on my promise to do well in life, and now I have my own house and am very stable financially. Hence, it's time to get my sister back, but I don't know how to do it. I know that I have to find a way to lure my parents into bringing her themselves. Thank you guys for all your suggestions. I got the courage to do what I knew I had to do. I went back to my former neighborhood. The first place I went to was Mrs. Thompson's. I apologized to her for leaving and not coming back until now. I explained that I wanted to make something for myself before coming back, and I also didn't want to remember the bad memories that I had when I was there. I couldn't forget her because of what she did for me, and I had to come back because my sister's the most important person in my life. I asked her how things had been going and if she knew anything about my family. She told me that nothing had changed except that my sister had grown and followed in my footsteps. Hearing that made me so excited. I had missed her so much and it was time to take her somewhere better. I spent so much time with Mrs. Thompson's and was reluctant to leave until she told me that it was time to go and face my fears. It still baffles me how she knows what to say every time. I left my parents' house and saw that not much had changed. They couldn't believe their eyes when they saw me. In fact, they didn't recognize me at first because I looked polished and well-dressed. My sister wasn't home when I came, so I waited for her. When we saw each other, tears started running down my eyes. I was transported back to when I told her I was leaving. She had cried and begged me not to go. I promised that I was going to school, that I would find a way to better our lives, and that I would come back for her no matter what. I did. She hugged me, and we stayed like that for a while. My parents acted excited to see me. They said that they always knew that I would make them proud. I ignored their statements and instead invited them to my house. You should have seen the surprise on their faces when they heard that I had my own house. We agreed that I would come and pick them up with my sister during the weekend. I didn't try to take my sister because I didn't want them to get suspicious, even though she was disappointed that I was going to leave her again. Before I left, I gave my parents some money just to whet their appetite so that they would be eager to come with me that Saturday. I picked them up and we rode in my car to my house. My parents kept going on and on about how I took after them and how they taught me to have business sense. They said I only ended up better than them because I had more opportunities. That annoyed me. But I decided that I would not lose my cool because I had an end game that I had to win. When we arrived at my house, they were in awe. Mom asked me if I had a husband, and I replied negatively. She said she was surprised that I didn't have somebody to share my wealth with, but I didn't have to worry because she and Dad were now around to help me. That was her way of telling me to get ready because they would extort some money from me. I knew her trick. She and my dad collected my money for years, so I wouldn't let them again. I was only playing it cool with them because of my sister. If it was left to me, I would never speak to them again in my life because they were miserable people. There was no remorse, and it seemed like they had some sort of amnesia because they never mentioned that Dad threw me out of the house, or that after I left, they didn't try to look for me. There is no need for me to deceive myself by believing that we could mend our relationship. Some of my friends think that I'm still holding on to the hurt. That's why I don't date. There may be some truth to that, but there's also the fact that I was too focused on trying to get financially stable that I didn't have time for relationships. I couldn't be as emotionally available as anyone in a relationship should be, so I decided to wait until I was ready to go into that phase of life. The rest of the evening went smoothly. I showed my sister and my parents around my house and then had dinner. There was nothing to discuss, so I played a movie to prevent the awkward silence. We all knew the elephant in the room, but nobody was ready to acknowledge it. Not once did they refer to the incident of years ago, nor did they try to come off as though they wanted any money. The plan was to take them back home that evening, but my mom commented about how she was just getting to my house and she wasn't ready to leave yet. She jokingly said that she actually didn't mind moving in with me. Dad also supported her statement. I knew they were not kidding, but I decided to let them enjoy the night and leave the battle brooding for later. The following day, they tried to do the same thing again, so they could stay longer at my house. To their surprise, I refused and gave them a piece of my mind. I told them everything I had been holding in for years. They were the most horrible parents anybody could ever have. Even after all they did to me, I thought they would come to their senses and treat my sister better or acknowledge that they did wrong. Instead, they avoided the conversation altogether, trying to come off as the best parents, which they were evidently not. I told them to leave my house and never come back because I didn't want anything to do with them. If they tried, I would report them to the police and tell them all they did to my sister and me. My sister was still a minor, so they wouldn't want to be reported to Child Protection Services. I said I would get legal custody of my sister, but wouldn't press charges if they cooperated. I put them in a tight corner, which I was going for. They left, still without any apology. It was a bittersweet moment, but so worth it. I finally got my sister away from these toxic people. NTA, I'm sorry you had to go through all that. It's a good thing you have your sister now. NTA, what irks me the most is that they tried to behave like they didn't know what they did to you. Instead of trying to amend the relationship, they wanted to live off you. Old habits die hard.
Next story.
Mother-in-law isn't very interested in my kids. 5 male and 3 female, which is fine. I'm not the type of person who expects free childcare or anything. A mother-in-law isn't very good with kids in general. When they were babies, her only interest was buying my daughter the most over-the-top pink girls' clothes, which I didn't like, and set a boundary, and then mother-in-law lost all interest. Mother-in-law was the star gymnast at the best school in the country for sport. When she was younger, she was told at 8 that she could probably go to the Olympics, which she didn't do because she didn't want to be homeschooled. But my point is, she is an amazing gymnast. She is still in very good shape and can do flips and handsprings. Her new passion is aerial yoga, so she is very flexible. Mother-in-law does like to climb on stuff and contort in weird positions. My kids took an interest about 6 months ago when she was casually doing back and handsprings in the yard. She said she would teach them, and I asked her not to, as she had no mats down, and I don't really trust her judgment, to be honest. Mother-in-law told me I sounded like her mom, which I didn't really appreciate because she was a crack addict. But whatever. A few months later, I asked mother-in-law to watch my kids for 5 minutes so I could use the bathroom. They were on a trampoline, and when I came back, she was trying to teach them to do flips on it, and she wasn't even giving real instructions. Just like, watch this. I snapped at her that we have strict rules for the trampoline. Mother-in-law told me millennial parents are annoying, got off the trampoline, and sulked. The final straw was yesterday when we saw her for a family birthday. She tried to get my 3-year-old, who isn't even a strong swimmer, still working on it, to do a handstand right at the edge of a dock because it made a better Instagram picture. I chewed her out, but later found her trying to teach my 5-year-old to dangle upside down on playground equipment. I finally lost it and called her irresponsible, immature, and pointed out that she was a crap mother and isn't even close to either of her kids. Mother-in-law said she was just trying to bond with my kids. I pointed out that that is selfish because mother-in-law has never shown interest in their lives or hobbies until they showed an interest in the things that she likes. And I said if she can't bond without doing dangerous stuff, she is a crap grandmother as well. EH, a little ESH, posing kids for the gram is obnoxious. Having safety rules for a commercial trampoline makes sense. There's a reason those things are often completely banned by home insurance companies. The risks are high and expensive. But 5-year-olds dangling upside down from playground equipment is normal. And kids trying to do handstands and flips, also normal. You're setting your kids up for a host of psychological and physiological issues if you ban normal childhood play. Your mother-in-law is trying to create a bond with your kids, so why don't you encourage it in a way that everyone wins? Sign the little ones up for gymnastics at the Y. They'll learn how to do the tricks safely. Get their energy out, and that's something they can connect with mother-in-law on. There's even a genetic chance they'd be good at it.
Next story.
I, 31-year-old male, have a brother, Tom, 28, who has a girlfriend named Harper, 25. They've dated for 4 years. They aren't married. They never want to, but Harper calls herself a sister-in-law. They have no kids and Harper doesn't work. This would be fine if they didn't struggle financially. They had to move in with my parents because of debt. My family thinks Harper is lazy and she compensates by being a perfect housewife. Harper puts all of her free time into party planning, as in planning our family's birthday and holidays, which we never asked for and don't like. She treats every event like it's a wedding, and she is the wedding planner. For context, she makes spreadsheets of all the things to do weeks in advance. These people are in charge of the food, this many people, this budget, these options, up for debate later. These people do decorations, cleaning up before and after, color scheme and attire suggestions. These people do entertainment, karaoke, games, music playlist, movies, slideshows. My family collectively rolls our eyes and says things like, Harper, it's a birthday for a 1-year-old. My 1-year-old. There will be 10 people there, so piss off with this list. Harper pouts and is moody at the events because if only we did it this way, it would be so much more special and memorable. I'm hosting Easter at my house because I have a large yard for the kids to hunt eggs. As usual, Harper sent the family spreadsheets for the event. Apparently, my job as host is to properly clean my house, weed and mulch my flower beds, and remove a dead tree on the edge of the property. There was a tips and tricks for lawn care, she added at the bottom. Harper has decided to cook the food. Her budget is $120, $155 if I want a cake. I emailed her back and simply said, "Who invited you?" She texted me a bunch of question marks. I texted back, "Unfortunately, there will be no plus ones to watch my kids find eggs in the yard. If I let my brother bring a date, then I'd have to let my other guests bring dates, and we have already hit our budget of buying a grocery store ham. Sorry, I'm sure you understand how these things are. Best wishes." She stopped talking to me. My brother is mad at me. My dad thinks I'm petty. My sister couldn't care less, and my mom is happy, though, laugh out loud, she hates Harper. My wife wants me to act my age and stop this drama, but because it's my family, she is leaving it as my decision. AITA for banning Harper? Harper started making the spreadsheets when she and my brother moved in with my parents. We told her thanks, but no. Every time we got together, she wanted to add a few $100s to it of our money. We firmly said no. No, holy shit, no means no. And she continues to give us passive-aggressive comments about not making our family moment special. I don't consider her family. No one does. Not even my brother. He doesn't want to marry her because this is just another girlfriend to him. Their relationship is toxic. I didn't mention it because that's not the problem right now. I'm rude to her. I admit it. Wow, a lot of comments. Thanks for the responses. Honestly, I'm glad to know many feel my response was justified, but will also consider the advice from those that feel I should be a better person. To answer the many questions about my brother, their relationship, and my parents' place in it, my brother is an asshole. I know it. My family knows it. He has strung Harper along for years, and we assumed they would break up long before now. Harper treats him like a king, does everything for him. That's why he is still with her, but has told us she's just another girlfriend. My dad spoiled my brother and pressured my mom to take her in along with my brother. My mom hates Harper. My other two sisters, are low contact, and I am low contact as well. When Harper moved in with my parents, she really pushed for a family connection, correcting us to call her a sister-in-law, not a girlfriend. Being a part of all family events, controlling them really. We have shut her down every time, but she pretends like it's never an issue. We ignore her now. Some have asked me for more Harper stories. My sisters have a ton of them that don't involve me. My mom has a few. I might write more later. Also, I'll try to link the spreadsheets if I can figure out how. You know how these things are. Best wishes, laugh out loud. That list would have enraged me. Harper not talking to me would be a win in my books. It takes a special kind of person to attempt to plan an event that not only are they not hosting, but haven't even been invited to yet. NTA,